Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin.
I'm Laura.
And we are going to spoiler talk Ghostbusters 2016. Who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters!
What'd you think of this movie?
Well, first off, based off of the trailers, which I thought left nothing to the imagination.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed this movie a lot more. There was a lot more one-liners in it than, it's Ghostbusters. There has to be one-liners. But I went in with really, really low expectations. Let's just start there.
It's funny watching you try to get that out.
I know.
It's like,
It's
yes.
Really low expectations, and I was surprised, and I enjoyed it a lot more because of it.
Well, there's a lot of negative hype for this on YouTube. Like, did you know the first trailer they released?
Oh, yeah, it got more negatives than positives.
Yeah, it got more thumbs down in the history of any video on YouTube, which I thought was fascinating. So, but the negative press just continued from there into all kinds of, stupid, controversial territory I didn't even need to go to. Mm-hmm. But in the end, not because of that stuff, but just because I thought the trailer looked mediocre.
Yeah, it just kind of okay.
I felt
same thing.
All the jokes were in the trailer.
Yes.
And I thought all the best parts were in the trailer.
And the jokes that were in the trailers, I didn't think were that funny.
Come on, they showed Slimer.
Yeah.
In the trailer. And so I'm just yep, we have seen the best of it. But I like that we didn't. Mm-hmm. There was so much more to it. Starting with the very beginning of the movie, they go to investigate this haunted mansion. Well, before they even get to investigate the haunted mansion, this guy, Gabe from The Office, the tall skin, And so what I thought was kind of cool was Gabe Lewis gives a tour of this mansion. And he talks about the girl that was locked in the basement and never released until they found her dead down there. But nobody since that time has unlocked that door in however many years it's been and all that stuff. And then the candlestick flies off. Then it turns out he had a little button and that little thing.
Planned.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, there's this weird little disc thing on the ground. And Gabe is trying to close things up and all that stuff. And the little disc thing turns on, and all of a sudden the house gets all haunted and crazy, and the basement door opens, and poor Gabe Lewis falls into the slime of the basement caused by this crazy apparition, and it was actually...
Did we see what the actual apparition was, though?
I don't know.
No, we did not.
Well, we sort of. I think we
saw her picture.
Well, we saw her picture, and I think we started to see her outline, but we didn't see her.
No, we didn't.
And we definitely saw the ground turn into green slime.
Yes, we did.
Which reminded me of that purple slime from Ghostbusters 2. Did you see that? Oh, my goodness. Well, I haven't seen that one.
I saw the first one.
There we go. That's enough.
That's the important one.
Yes. But that's kind of what it reminded me of, but I don't know. So, but I actually thought that scene was well done. The haunting of that scene, the kind of tension they built, and the comedy that was in there, and stuff like that. I just thought that whole scene was well done. And so that being kind of the opening of the movie, I kind of went, whoa.
It was well done. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun, mindless... I like fun, mindless movies, if you didn't know that.
Well, I didn't think it was completely mindless. It was mostly mindless. And one of the things I liked was Kristen Wiig's character. Mm-hmm. Because, I just thought it was interesting what they did with her. That she is a scientist. So anything that is paranormal, she wants nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. It's all about the science. It's all that stuff that you can see and explain and all that.
Scientific method.
Yeah, scientific method and all that. And then she's trying to get tenure at this college, and the guy giving her tenure is Tyrion Lannister's dad. I wouldn't want to get tenure from that guy.
I think his name is Tyrone Lannister.
I don't know. Point
He's
is,
not my favorite character.
I would never want that guy to give me tenure anywhere. So, anyway. So she's trying to get tenure, and this book that she co-wrote with Melissa McCarthy about the paranormal suddenly pops up.
Back when they were really young.
Yeah. And so, she's trying to convince Melissa McCarthy not to do it. But what I liked about Kristen Wiig's character is she's really motivated by the fact that she saw a ghostly apparition every single night for an entire year standing at the foot of her bed. Her neighbor died. The spirit of the neighbor kept haunting her bedroom every night for a year. She had to go to therapy and all that stuff. And I thought that was interesting that nobody believed her, not even her parents. And then everybody at school started to make fun of her and called her the ghost girl. So she had this underlying... you find this out later in the movie, but it's really cool when you go back and watch the beginning and you see... Because her reactions are a little extreme. she co-wrote this book, and all of a sudden, no ghost, no this, no that. And you're like, why is this so extreme? That's why. Nobody believed you. They all made fun of you. And I thought it was a really cool way that they motivated her character and made a lot of sense out of her character.
And the reason her and Melissa McCarthy are friends is because Melissa McCarthy was the only person who ever believed her as a kid. But I will say, that whole scene where she told the story to the other two characters about ghosts, I just watched that and I'm like, oh, she's screwing with them the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm just like, but then it just kept going, and then it ended up being a real story, so it felt awkward in this scene for me.
In order for Melissa McCarthy to take the book down, Kristen Wiig agrees to go with them to the mansion.
Yes.
Where they see the ghostly apparition, and you see it in the trailer where the thing vomits slime all over Kristen Wiig.
Yeah, and it gets everywhere.
Really.
That's in the trailer, too.
It was kind of the Slimer scene, but redone differently.
With a scary woman.
It actually scared me.
Well, I know. What was funny is because I think the entire theater jumped and then started laughing hysterically because you know it's coming because you've seen it in the trailer.
1,000,000 times.
But it's just the way it happened, because at first you're like, oh, it's not going to happen yet. It's not going to happen yet. And then it happens and you just jump and you go, ah, and everybody, well, for the most part, everybody laughed, but we had a really good audience.
Well, it's like, oh yeah. And I think that also made the movie better. Yeah. Going in with zero expectations for it and having an audience. I think the people next to us might have been tipsy, but going in with an audience that is going to laugh and have fun with it, it does change up the atmosphere. And so we had
There's a lot of original Ghostbuster fans in there too, you can tell.
And so that kind of helped the atmosphere of this movie and made it a whole lot better.
Yes.
And so when this woman, so just imagine when the woman barfed, you're having a normal conversation and things are normal. Ah!
Yeah.
I mean, she made this weird scream noise. And a vomit in 3D just projectiled out. And it was...
Yeah.
It scared the snot out of me.
It didn't scare the snot out. You just jumped a little. Like everybody else did.
The truth is, I think she was really scared.
I laughed.
Uh-huh. Yeah, afterwards.
After I jumped.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I wasn't scared. I knew it was coming. I just was caught off guard.
What was really cool, too, was all the original Ghostbuster cameos.
Oh, I was going to bring up the cameos, too. I mean, everybody from the original movies was in it except for, Harold Ramis, unfortunately.
Rest in peace, Harold.
Yes.
Oh, if you stay through the credits, they say that for Harold Ramis at the end. It was a nice little tribute. Yeah. I really liked that.
But Harold Ramis and Rick Moranis wasn't in it either.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They brought back Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Yep, and then Dan Aykroyd is a cab driver.
Yes.
And Bill Murray is somebody who debunks ghost stories. And Ernie Hudson was the uncle of Patty in the movie. And he was the one who owned the funeral home where she got her hearse from.
Yeah. And what I thought was really funny was, I knew Bill Murray was going to be in it and he's going to have his cameo. I didn't know he was going to be a ghost debunker.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
It was just hilarious. And then when Dan Aykroyd shows up at the end of the movie when New York is being infested with ghosts and Kristen Wiig is trying to get a ride and Dan Aykroyd's like, oh, these are just class 5 apparitions. This is nothing to be worried about.
I ain't scared no ghosts.
But Kristen Wiig was getting all crazy and stuff. He goes, look, I don't take crazy people in my cab, and I ain't afraid of no ghost, and he drives off. But once Dan Aykroyd showed up, I was like, okay, so there's most of the Ghostbusters. So I started waiting for more and more cameos, and you'll have to stay after the credits, because that's where Sigourney Weaver pops up and things like that. But it was so cool to see them all cameo in this movie, and it looked like they were happy to be there.
Yeah, it looked like they had fun with it.
Yeah, and it really did. And that's the other thing about this movie. I felt like, and I didn't say this on my spoiler free, so I'm glad we're saying this now. I thought the entire cast of this movie was happy to be there.
Yeah, I felt like they all had a good time doing what they were doing.
And even Chris Hemsworth, I thought he was happy to be there.
Oh, he looked like he probably had more fun than any of the ladies.
Okay. So this is what I didn't want to talk about in my spoiler-free, because I thought these jokes were spoiler territory, but since this is a spoiler
because they're
talk,
funny, and it would have ruined that part of the movie.
I think one of my favorite things, so you have Chris Hemsworth, Thor, right? He's showing up with these glasses. So what they did is they made him the receptionist, but not just any receptionist. He was the epitome of the dumb blonde joke receptionist. Yeah. And so here he is, and he's wearing his glasses, and he's talking, and then he does this. And he doesn't take his glasses off.
No, he puts his glasses... He doesn't have any lenses!
Yes, for those of you listening on iTunes or whatever, I mean, he literally just rubbed his eyes leaving his glasses frames on. And it's like...
And they ask him
what?
why, and he's like, well, they kept getting dirty.
And I have a really light prescription, so I wear glasses when I drive and stuff.
They keep getting dirty.
Yeah, I wanted to take a page out of his book and just take out the lenses, and then I'm like, well, that defeats the purpose, but it was just hilarious. And then he's trying to put his hand through the glass of a fish tank, like... I mean, seriously. And then
a lot of dumb blonde
and then
jokes.
him not being able to figure out how the phone worked. And
Well, it's not that. And then, like, he would answer and he couldn't get the name of the place right. Or then he would start saying things that were off the wall, or he'd hang up on people because they were kind of a little crazy.
Yeah.
And it was just funny because, you know, they knew he was stupid. They did. But Kristen Wiig's character thought he was cute. And that's pretty much how he got the job.
Yes. Well, the other women had a reason for giving him the job, and it wasn't because he was cute. I think it's because he was the only one who applied.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what happened.
And he wanted to be there.
Yeah.
He did.
Oh, he really liked being there, too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, he did a fantastic job in that role, and I felt like...
I didn't think he was Thor when I was watching him. Because, you know, he's pretty typecasted.
Yeah.
And he did a good enough job for me to go,
but
he's a different side of him.
Okay, the way I'm going to phrase this is going to sound bad. I don't feel like he got into character for this movie. But I don't mean that as a negative.
Like he acted the way he is?
No, I don't even feel like he acted the way he is. I felt like he was just having fun. So in turn, as an audience member, I had a lot of fun watching him, and I was laughing hysterically. Whenever he was on screen, I was laughing hysterically. Even when he got possessed by the bad guy at the end, he didn't lose that humor.
He was still a funny bad guy.
Yeah. So speaking of the bad guy, I actually kind of liked the bad guy in this movie. I don't know if you ever saw the Yahoo original show Other Space, but he was like this weird dude on that show. And I felt like he kind of carried that over into this movie. You never watched Other Space with me, did you?
No, I've never heard of it.
Really? I told you about it. Point is, he was kind of strange on Other Space. He kind of carried that over here. Or I think his motivation is kind of weak in this movie.
See, I felt he was just weak in general.
Yeah.
I mean, he just had one attitude and he was one way and like he just had one way of talking and it was very monotone and straight, and I understand that's what they wanted him to do, but I'm like, he's not possessed by somebody.
Yeah.
If he was possessed by like a ghost that was trying to get him to do these things, I think I would have understood it more. But in this situation, it was just... And then you see, like, his drawings, and you can see this guy is, you know, unfortunately, he's got something wrong.
Yeah.
And I would think he would be acting in different ways, personally, just from what we know in general. See,
now, having watched Other Space, I really feel like he took that character that he played, and he played it again. I don't, like you, I felt like in some ways it weakened his characters, but in some ways he was kind of interesting. Because where he was this really awkward, loner guy who blamed the world for all of his problems, and that's really where I thought he was weak. Like, he kept thinking about himself. He blamed the whole world for his problems, and it was, oh, poor me.
And there were people being nice to him all over the place.
I think that's why I felt like it was a really weak motivation.
Yeah.
He complains of being bullied, but really, nobody was really that mean to him in this movie.
No, we didn't see, except for we saw like two servers kind of saying, it's your turn to serve him.
Well, yeah, because he's kind of a weird dude.
Yeah,
but he's also a weird dude because he's a genius. Because where you have the Ghostbusters and the one girl in the Ghostbusters who's figured out all this technology to interact with ghosts, he's done the same thing.
Same exact technology.
Yeah.
I mean, and he just used it for the opposite good.
Yeah.
He just used it for bad instead of good.
I liked opposite good. I thought that was great.
Okay, fine, opposite good.
There we go. And then it was kind of weird. He kills himself so that he becomes a ghost. And then as a ghost, he goes to possess Chris Hemsworth.
Well, he tried to possess Melissa McCarthy so he could destroy everything first.
Yeah.
And then that's, that trailer scene when the power compels you. And she smashed
the power of Patty compels you.
Yeah, it was...
That scene was funnier in the movie than it was in the trailer.
But that part was still not very good.
It wasn't...
How'd that go?
It wasn't... That's how that went. Okay, it was better than it was in the trailer, but you're right. It wasn't the strongest scene in the movie, and probably because, this is gonna sound weird, they didn't drag it out longer. I mean, if it had possessed Melissa McCarthy, and really turned her against them, and then they had to figure something out because it's Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah.
I think it might have been more interesting.
But instead just hitting her took care of it.
Yeah, for some reason slapping her really hard expels the demon, and then it goes to possess Chris Hemsworth, which there were some really funny parts there where Chris Hemsworth lists some heavy things once he's possessed. He's like, oh my gosh.
I should have worked out when I was a human.
When I was alive.
Oh, when I was alive, yeah.
He was still a human.
Yeah, I really should have done this.
I don't know, but really what the bad guy wanted to do was use ley lines. And so what you learn in this movie is, and you could, if you go watch the History Channel and watch their Ancient Aliens.
they talk about them all the time.
They talk a lot about ley lines, these lines of energy around the Earth. And lots of people have different theories of what they are. I read an interesting fictional series where you would cross to alternate timelines through those things.
That'd be cool.
That would be cool. This one, it was just paranormal doors. So what the guy wanted to do was use his machine to up the paranormal activity to activate the ley lines in New York City to open a portal that would basically invert the world, and the physical world would become
all these ghosts would come out, basically, is what would happen. And they would take over the humans.
Yes. And so he partially succeeds. The other thing that was interesting was the mayor, and how the mayor was working with the government, and they knew about ghosts.
They knew about ghosts, but they wanted to keep it under wraps, so they turned the Ghostbusters into, like, a joke. Or they did their best to turn it into
in the trailer, where they catch that thing in the concert, that is the thing that makes public ghosts and the Ghostbusters. So then what the mayor does, and I don't know how a mayor of a city who's not with...
Well, he's working with, like, the FBI
Yeah,
and
but I don't get why he would be... Anyway, point is, that was kind of weak to me. But having this government agency try to make the Ghostbusters look like fools so that whole scene looked like a fraud so the ghost stuff can remain a secret, I thought that was actually interesting.
Because, honestly... I bet that's what would happen.
Which really ticked off Kristen Wiig a lot, because she's tired of being the ghost girl. And I thought that was also interesting, the way that affected her character. And then at the end, when nobody can deny it, because the dude opens up the ley lines and starts to open the vortexing portal and all these ghosts come out, then it's all up to the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Best part in that whole thing, Slimer comes out, steals the Ghostbuster car, drives around the city, and there's like 3 or 4 different points where the Ghostbusters are fighting in different parts of the city, and all of a sudden, Slimer's party is getting bigger and bigger every time he drives by.
And there's a girl Slimer!
There's a girl! You know what? If I believe that's how the afterlife actually worked, which I don't.
I would be a girl Slimer, and you would be the boy Slimer.
Yep, we would be the Slimer. That's how I would picture it. We would be Slimers.
We would be hijacking cars and having a party.
Oh, that would be fun. Anyway, so that was, to me, the best part of that. The other best part was, you see it in the trailer, we have all those ghosts walking around all over the place, and then they decide to fight. And so what was cool was, they had the close combat stuff, and so it was really...
The things that...
something they couldn't do with the original.
Yeah.
But they can do it now because of the technology.
Because technology's there now.
Yeah. Though the one thing I couldn't believe was, it's like, wait a minute, the streams are melting the ghosts?
Yeah, I didn't really fully understand.
Because the streams are supposed to be like...
Well, see, at times, the streams would wrap around them and pull the ghost into their, the chamber.
Well, it would hold them in place so that it would get sucked into the trap.
Yeah, but then there's other times when, especially when they're fighting the villain at the end, you see he's getting, like, melted off. And I'm like, well, why aren't they just constantly hitting him with it?
Yeah.
Why do they have to suck him back into, ghost hell?
And then what a depressing world to know that you could die once and be a ghost, and then a Ghostbuster can disintegrate you, and then you're like, dead
or
again?
Or a ghost again?
Yeah, so it's just like... So that, to me, that was the weakest part of that, because it felt like it contradicted the rules they set forth.
Yeah.
But at the same time, to see them do that close quarter fighting and roping the things and then swinging them around, like, honestly, it looked cool. So I tried to let go of my one little peeve of, no, those are like ropes. You hold them in place and then you suck them in the trap. They don't disintegrate. What is that? But it looked cool. Like, visually, their close combat fighting was really cool.
Yeah, there's, like, some weird things about... So they had Macy Day Parade.
A ghostly
balloons,
Macy Day Parade. What was that?
And those, they could pop. I just didn't... But one of them was the...
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I always call him the Stay Puft Jiggly
It was another...
Man.
Jiggly Man?
I don't know. A Jiggly Marshmallow. I always had Jiggly in there. I don't know why. I've always done it.
Jiggle.
Maybe because I'm thinking Jigglypuff, and I think he's like a marshmallow, and this guy's like a marshmallow. I don't know. Pokemon Go. But I just... Sorry.
Made me cough again.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yay.
But... and so he was the last one, and he did squish 3 of them, and that was kind of funny.
And then Kristen Wiig popped him.
And Kristen Wiig just popped it with the Swiss Army knife, and I'm like, if it's a ghost...
Does it pop by a Swiss Army knife?
I'm like, well, I guess if it's a balloon, but I guess there's haunted balloons. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, the balloon thing was kind of weird. There was some nice nostalgia to see Stay Puft again.
That was cool.
And it was funny, and you're like, you would enjoy it, but at the same time, you're like, a knife pops a ghost?
Yeah.
Interesting. So that was kind of cool, and then what else was cool in that last scene?
Oh, see, I would jump towards when it ended, but I don't think it was cool.
Okay, well then jump towards the ending that you didn't think was cool.
So basically, they get to the point where he becomes...
the bad guy.
Bad guy, which is the Ghostbuster. Like, it is like the ghost that it has the,
Oh, yeah.
He becomes this guy right here.
Yeah, he leaves Chris Hemsworth's body, and then he kind of does what Zul... Was it Zul? Whatever the Babylonian dude was in Ghostbusters 1. He goes, what form shall I take?
Yeah. And so they're like, oh, Casper, like a friendly small ghost. And so he first turns into him, looking cute, adds a little, and takes this red thing and turns it into a bow tie. And then he becomes like this ginormous monster.
And that's their version of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in this movie.
Yeah, and so Chris Hemsworth has frozen all the police force and the SWAT team and everything. And I'm like, well, when he was bad, sorry.
When he was still possessed.
When he was possessed. But I sit there and go, why wouldn't he freeze them?
Oh, yeah.
That was one thing.
Well, I kind of felt like he was playing with them because they were the only ones that understood him and understood the technology. But you're right. If he really wants to get his vengeance and turn the world inside out, you don't play with your food.
And then so he's this giant guy, and then they hit him with their stream. I don't know what that thing's called. I just remember Don't Cross the Streams from the first one. So they hit him with the stream, and he like burns, and I'm like, okay, but then
Where did they hit him?
Well, the first time it was in the face, and then later when they decided to attack, they all hit him in the balls, and then after that's where they hit him, and it's like, and they're like, that's where you meant, right? And then he like kind of falls because I don't know, but apparently it's incredibly painful when you get hit in the balls. At the end, so their Hearst is basically like a nuke. And so they're like, oh, well, if we throw that into this tower that is destroyed with this funnel,
yeah, it was this hotel that was the center.
Create reverse polarity. And so it goes in, and, Melissa McCarthy ends up getting grabbed by the evil guy and falls in. And so Kristen Wiig's like, oh, I'm not going to leave her again, and ties like the longest tire rope ever in the world, and jumps in after her and catches her and brings her out. And then as everything like tidies up, oh, guess what? All the buildings are rebuilt.
Yeah, it was weird.
Can you explain that to me?
I don't understand how closing a portal fixed damage done by ghosts, but it did.
That made no sense in any way.
Yeah. So the movie definitely had a lot of its weak points, but
yeah, that part just irritated me. I'm like, what a junky ending. Leave the place devastated. That would be awesome.
Yeah, like the Avengers or Man of Steel.
Yeah, but I mean, leave it devastated. That's just because that's what happened. And this way, people can't doubt that there's ghosts. But then, because everything built back up, the mayor tries to get people to believe that ghosts didn't exist. But
whatever. They got fully funded to continue.
The city of New York knows about the Ghostbusters.
And the Ghostbusters got fully funded to continue working secretly. Yes. So that was kind of cool.
And in the after credits scene, Patty's listening to something and she hears the word Zool. So if this movie does well,
that's right,
there will be a sequel.
So what was really funny, Laura and I walk out of the theater, and the girl standing at the podium says, "What did you think?" Just to me and Laura. Of all the people,
we've only seen once or twice at this. She's newer to the place.
She asked me what we thought. I was like, I was surprised by how good it was. She goes, "Really? I saw it last night, and it was not good. I didn't think the one girl's funny. I didn't think that other girl was funny. I thought all these jokes fell flat, and really, I give it 2 to 2.5 stars out of 5." And I just froze, like, do you know who I am? Do you watch Durbania? Do you know I do reviews? You just did a Durbanian review.
Yeah, she had stuff to back it all up.
It was amazing. And then we walk out the theater to shoot the picture of the thumbnail for my spoiler-free review, and this dude walks out. And he sees us taking a picture, and he just starts laughing hysterically. He goes, "Hey, get a picture with me, too. So, we took pictures with him, too.
Yeah. And then he starts, he's just like, but he said, oh, was that in the movie like the best movie ever?
Oh, man. And not only did he say it was the best movie ever, he had so much energy.
Yeah.
I looked like I was the dude with no energy next to him.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, best movie ever! I'm definitely not there. Not best movie ever, but I'm also not with the girl at the podium where, 2 stars. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars, probably because I had 0 expectations, and probably because our audience in the theater was really fun.
Yeah, that helps so much.
It does. But really, truthfully, I think even that aside, I got more out of this movie than I thought I was going to get. I did like all the women in this movie. I thought they did a great job in their roles. I thought it was a pretty good story, even if some parts of it fell flat and the ending wasn't the strongest and things like that. I still really enjoyed it. So,
well, and for me, I'm in between 2.5 and 3 stars. I'll go with 3 because it was much better than I thought it was going to be. I had such low expectations. But the reason I wouldn't necessarily want to own it, I don't need to see it again. He would. But I just don't really have a desire to see it again. I thought, like, Melissa McCarthy was Melissa McCarthy. I thought Kristen Wiig does exactly what Kristen Wiig does every time. And honestly, if I look at the movie for just the movie and not with my low expectations going in, it was fun, but it wasn't anything that I'd write home to mom about.
well, there you go. Maybe your mom's watching, so maybe you don't have to.
Maybe.
Yeah.
My mom doesn't.
Does she know how to work the YouTube?
I don't think she does.
Oh, right.
If you do, love you, Mom.
Well, if you saw Ghostbusters, the new one, let us know what you thought in the comments. How many stars out of 5 would you give it? Were you surprised? Did you like it better than you thought? Or were you surprised and you liked it way worse than you thought? Let us know in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button. Tomorrow, posting a reading way too much into Star Trek, the 2009, and then Monday doing a special reading way too much into and posting Star Trek Into Darkness. Getting really excited for Star Trek Beyond.
And then next Thursday,
Yeah.
you'll see Star Trek Beyond.
So subscribe. That way, you're on top of all of this stuff that's coming out, and it'll be a good time had by all.
Yeah.
All right, and you like this video? Make sure you hit that like button. I'm Durbin.
I'm Laura.
Thank you so much for checking out Durbania.